She sat across from me in my office, hands folded in her lap, trying so hard to hold it together. Her name was Dorothy, 67 years old, from Georgia. Sharp woman, retired school teacher, lifelong reader, the kind of person who remembers everyone's birthday without writing it down. She told me she'd been taking a memory supplement for 8 months, every single morning, never missed a day. And then she looked at me and said, "Dr. Jenkins, I forgot my granddaughter's name last Tuesday." I was looking right at her. She didn't cry. She just sat there, very still, and that silence told me everything I needed to know. I've been practicing integrative medicine here in Austin for over 19 years. I've worked with more than 4,000 patients specifically on brain health and cognitive decline, and I hear some version of Dorothy's story more often than I can count. People doing everything they were told, taking the supplements, eating better, sleeping more, and still, watching their memory slowly slip. I want to talk to you today about why that's happening, because the answer has nothing to do with how disciplined you are or how hard you're trying. It has to do with something that almost no one is talking about, a specific mechanism inside your brain that most supplements simply never reach. And if you are over 60 and you care about your memory, I don't want you to leave this video without understanding this. Here's what I want you to know first. The brain health supplement industry is worth billions of dollars. Billions. And the vast majority of those products are formulated around one basic assumption, that memory problems are caused by a lack of nutrients. Give the brain what it's missing, the thinking goes, and things improve. But that assumption is incomplete. And for many people over 60, it's the reason nothing seems to work. Here's what the research has been showing us, research that doesn't always make it into mainstream conversation. As we age, the brain doesn't just lose nutrients, it loses something more fundamental. It loses its ability to communicate with itself. Let me explain what I mean by that. Your brain has roughly 86 billion neurons. These neurons don't work in isolation. They fire in coordinated rhythms, almost like music. Neuroscientists actually call these patterns neural oscillations. And the research on memory, specifically on the kind of memory that starts to fade first after 60, points to something remarkable. The brain rhythms associated with learning and recall begin to fall out of sync. It's not just that neurons are dying. It's that the ones still alive are no longer singing in tune with each other. They're firing, but they're not coordinating. And when that coordination breaks down, information doesn't get stored properly, it doesn't get retrieved properly. This is why someone can remember events from 30 years ago with crystal clarity. But forget what they said 10 minutes ago. The older memories were stored when the brain's rhythm was intact. The new ones are trying to form in a system that's lost its internal harmony. And here's the part that matters most for anyone who's been taking supplements and wondering why nothing seems to change. Most supplements target nutrients, vitamins, antioxidants, omega fatty acids, and those things matter. I'm not saying they don't, but if the brain's coordination system is disrupted, it doesn't matter how much raw material you give it. A construction crew can't build anything if no one can communicate the plan. So what disrupts that coordination in the first place? 3 things. Chronic low-grade inflammation, which is extraordinarily common after 60 and often completely invisible on standard lab work. Disrupted cortisol patterns, meaning stress that doesn't spike dramatically but just hums low in the background, day after day. And the gradual loss of key neurotransmitter precursors that support the signaling pathways involved in memory consolidation. Those 3 things together don't just starve the brain of nutrients, they disrupt its rhythm, its ability to orchestrate itself, and most supplements address none of these 3 things. I want to pause here for just a moment. If you've been frustrated, if you've spent money and time and hope on something that didn't seem to do anything, I want you to hear me say this directly. It wasn't your fault. You were working with incomplete information, and that information was incomplete because the science on this particular mechanism is genuinely newer than most product formulations. If you want to know what I've found that actually addresses this rhythm problem, I'll tell you in just a moment. But first, I want to give you the lifestyle piece, because this part is free and it works. The single most powerful thing you can do to support neural coordination is protect your deep sleep, not just the hours, the quality. During deep, slow-wave sleep, your brain literally flushes out metabolic waste through a system called the glymphatic system. This is the mechanism that clears the inflammation-promoting compounds that disrupt neural rhythm. If your sleep is fragmented, that clearing process is incomplete every night. The second thing, and this one surprises people, is managing what I call invisible stress. Not the stress you feel dramatically. The low hum, the background worry, the body that never fully relaxes. That steady cortisol drip is profoundly damaging to hippocampal function. Even 10 minutes of intentional stillness, not productivity, not meditation as a performance, just actual stillness, begins to shift those cortisol patterns within weeks. Third, social engagement. I know that sounds soft, but the data here is striking. Meaningful conversation, not passive consumption, actual back and forth connection, activates more regions of the brain simultaneously than almost any other activity. For my patients over 60 who live alone or have reduced social contact, this is often the most urgent intervention I recommend. Now, I want to tell you about something I discovered after years of researching this exact mechanism: the rhythm disruption, the coordination failure, the 3 underlying causes. Because I kept finding that even my most compliant patients, doing everything right with lifestyle, still needed targeted support at the cellular level. And I couldn't find a single product that was formulated around what the science was actually showing. I don't want this to sound like I'm selling you something, because that's not what this is. This is me telling you what I now share with my own patients. It's called the brain song. The name itself reflects the science. The idea that the brain has a rhythm, a song it needs to sing in order to function. And this formula was built specifically to address the 3 disruption factors I described: the inflammatory signaling, the cortisol-driven stress pathway, and the neurotransmitter precursors involved in memory consolidation. I'll be honest with you. When I first looked at the formulation, I was skeptical. I've seen a lot of products, but what I found in the research behind each individual component, it aligned with everything I had been studying. This wasn't nutrients thrown at a nutrient problem. This was a formula that actually addressed the coordination layer. I've put a link in the pinned comment below, not because I want you to buy something, but because I genuinely don't want you to leave without knowing this exists. Dorothy, the woman I told you about at the beginning, she's been using it for 4 months now. She called my office 2 weeks ago. She said she was playing a card game with her grandchildren and she remembered every name, every card, every rule. She didn't make a big deal of it. She just said, "I felt like myself again." That's the only outcome I care about. And Dorothy isn't the only one. Carol from Arizona, 71 years old, came to me convinced that what she was experiencing was just aging, that nothing could help. She'd tried 2 other supplements before, said they did nothing. After 3 months, she told me her word finding, that horrible pause where you know what you want to say but the word won't come, had almost completely resolved. She said she'd stopped bracing herself before conversations. Linda, 68, Tennessee. Her concern wasn't dramatic memory loss. It was mental fatigue, that feeling of cognitive effort that shouldn't be hard, reading a paragraph and needing to reread it, losing the thread mid-sentence. 6 weeks in, she said the fog had lifted, not partially, meaningfully. And Barbara, 74, Virginia. She was the most skeptical of anyone I've worked with. Former scientist. She came to me with a spreadsheet of ingredients from every supplement she'd tried and why each one was probably ineffective. She tried the brain song somewhat reluctantly. At her 3-month follow-up, she said, and I wrote this down because it was so Barbara, "The mechanism makes sense, and I noticed the difference." If you are 60 or older and you've been wondering why the things you've tried haven't worked, please don't give up. Don't assume this is just what aging feels like. The science has moved. There is a more complete explanation now, and there are tools built around that explanation. The link is in the pinned comment below this video. Go read it. Look at the research behind it. You deserve to make an informed decision with the full picture in front of you. Your brain isn't broken. It may have just lost its rhythm, and rhythm can be restored.